Welcome to the Innovate Summit podcast. Join us every week for the heartbeat between our biannual curated room of human-centered innovation. And here are your hosts, Brian Wallace and Drew Sutton. Welcome to the show.
Podcast. Instead of just Drew and I talking all day, we figured we'd bring somebody else to keep us in line. Welcome, Matthew from Atlanta.
Innovation.
How are you today?
And here are
Very
your
good.
hosts,
Brian from
Wallace
Cincinnati
and Drew Sutton.
and Drew from Louisville.
Georgetown. Uh-oh.
Georgetown.
Fight
Sorry.
word.
It's okay. It's okay. If you're not from Kentucky, it's the same. I get it.
Yeah, it's
You
just
know that
whatever.
Kentucky is the birthplace of the toothbrush, right? Kentucky invented the toothbrush. Because
So
if it had been,
toothbrush and bourbon.
yeah, well, if the toothbrush had been invented in any other state, we would have called it the teeth brush.
I knew it was coming.
That's my favorite Kentucky joke.
Oh my gosh. Yep. Got to start off the week with some good on punching down on Kentucky. But we're here to uplift Kentucky because we want to help it a little bit. That's why we bring all our friends from far and wide, such as Matthew. Do you want to be called Matt or Matthew on this one?
Matthew. Yeah.
Yeah, Matthew. I'm going to keep on saying that, Matthew. So, man, how did you come into this whole interesting wide world of Innovate?
So this is part of the connected dots of who knows Brian. And then Brian realizes, oh, you're in his sphere. And then he says, well, let's come to this crazy conference in the middle of nowhere. And we meet in this random restaurant and with a bunch of people. And he's like, you're coming. Who's coming? And 5 of us out of 20 raise their hands. And I was one of the 5. So that's how I got there. It was right time, right place, right people. And it looked interesting. It wasn't the regular same old show. It was something different. So I thought, worst case, it meets some interesting people. Best case, make some business contacts and something happens. And I got both happening. So it was a win-win.
And for context, because I'll connect a couple dots for what Matt just said. Matthew, excuse me. Sorry. Can't say Georgetown and Louisville and Matt. And okay, so we've got like the don't say word list. There we go. So this was before year 1 of Innovate, when we were still doing it in Owensboro, Kentucky. I would go to a whole bunch of cities where I would know people and gather them for a breakfast or lunch or dinner or drinks or something. And I found a lovely restaurant in Atlanta proper, and I brought a bunch of my Atlanta friends together, many of which didn't even know each other. And for the first 2 years before we executed on year 2, I went to, 20 different cities. And incredibly, someone from every city that I went to came, and it was kind of amazing. And you weren't the only person to come from Atlanta, which was cool. Jim
Yeah,
Fleet
there's
came
about 5
from
of us.
too.
Jim and a couple of people.
Yeah, for sure. So, I've been thinking a lot whenever now, if I just said out loud, whenever I think of you, I think about introverts, that would sound kind of weird, but that's not where I'm going with this. I'm not picking on you. And I think that introverts and extroverts and ambiverts and everything verts are all welcome. But when I think about your role, because as the Wizard of Oz always says, pay no attention to the man behind the curtain. I notice you have a curtain behind you for those of you who are not watching this on video. So you're the man behind the curtain who's in front of the curtain right now. And I think that you bring the quiet, calculating power of the introvert and are a lot of the brain power behind the scenes. And nobody gets to ever see that from the stage. And it's just a lot of stuff that people take for granted, that things just magically work. And I think you should talk about that. Or is that too much pressure for introverted?
No, this is good. So bringing in, I'd say year 2, where Sean Littman came from Israel, we connected, and it was basically exactly what you said, like taking behind the scenes and bringing it to the front of people that are trying to get donations into their organizations. So for me, it was, well, how do we do that? How do we show people, here's the yellow brick road to actually achieve success? And it's a difficult thing to show, because you have to pull back the curtain and show them, well, here's SEO, and here's paid ads, and here's what you're doing. Here's what everyone else is doing that you should be doing. Why aren't you doing all this? And give them tough love in a very gentle, non-judgmental way, that I could help them, but they have to be willing to walk down the yellow brick road and be able to drink the Kool-Aid to get there.
It's true. The world needs many more Wizard of Oz references. I would agree with that.
Yeah, as long as it doesn't include actors being painted all those colored paints. Children remind me that the Scarecrow and the bunch of other characters had so much paint on them that they actually got sick towards the end of filming. So,
I
know
never
that's a
heard
great
that.
idea. Yeah.
No. I feel like it was everybody's window into creativity because if you remember, there was a house in Kansas and it went up and up and up in the tornado, and the movie was in black and white. And then when they landed in Oz and fell on a witch, not to, spoiler alert, you should have seen it by now. Dorothy comes out into Oz and it's in color. And what a reveal. Man, the world needs more of that.
Yeah. I mean, it's amazing being able to talk to children and say to them, like, years ago, the whole world was in black and white. Someone had to pay for color. And they look at pictures on the wall like, but why were you in color? Well, my parents paid for us to be in color at that point. But the rest of the world was in black and white. Like, we were special. And then they look at us like, nah. I'm like, yeah, look, like, we paid for you to be in color right now. Otherwise, everything would be in black and white.
Yeah. Not to talk trash to the $3 to $4 billion event industry, but I feel like a lot of times, a lot of that stuff is just in black and white. Everybody's checking a box. It's like, I'm going to XYZ event because there's a lot of people there. What are you doing? Oh, there's 8 billion people in the world. You don't need all of them. Maybe you should curate it a little bit, huh? Maybe you don't know how, and maybe that's what we're doing. And I think, and Drew, we haven't heard from you much on this, but if we can take a page into the connection conductor stuff, all the stuff that we do to do the matchmaking and concierge style stuff to get everybody together, we've had some internal debates, folks, where it's like, people seem to be kind of extroverted. And then we had further conversations, and it was a little bit where it's like, why don't we also have introverts in it too? Because you almost need that counterbalance, because introverts don't like to do what extroverts are doing ever, and vice versa. Of course, you could be ambiverted too, but what do you think, Drew? Because
I think a couple of things. I have a systems engineering background, which means I like drawing block diagrams and watching how data flows and how responsibilities flow and accountability and conversations. And I think that a lot of times we call being an introvert just this subconscious understanding that this conversation is not going to move the needle for me, especially as you start dealing with more and more productive people, more and more high level people. They very quickly realize this conversation is not helpful. It's not that they devalue the person. They're just like this. Maybe there's this huge connection, but they're like, it doesn't go anywhere from here. So you're in enough of those conversations and you have enough responsibility on your shoulders. And pretty soon you're like, hey, this is not a good fit for me. I don't want to go out to these public events anymore. And so connection conductors, we take a look at that and we say, who is everybody looking for? What moves the needle for folks? And then how can we kind of wingman serendipity so that when those interpersonal connections happen and there's that spark, you're like, oh, this person's amazing. That person also has a couple of hooks that might take it from there. They're like, now once these two reactants, if you think about a chemical reaction, these two agents come together, they could actually produce something. And then it gets really exciting.
How? And also back to Matthew for a second. So I say this a lot. A lot of people are just like, oh, it's just friends of Brian and we're all just there to summer camp, kumbaya, touchy-feely, when everybody's worried about the woo-woo side of the event. And it's like, no, guys, like we're totally also capitalists here. I feel like you can definitely offer some firsthand experience into that because, correct me if I'm wrong, it's benefited you quite a bit.
Yeah, no, for sure. I mean, just the connections of who knows who and what's going on is definitely useful. Like, for example, Sean runs Gift Suite, which is a non-for-profit based software. And one of the projects I've got on the side, which eventually I will reactivate again, is start a non-for-profit to help students fundraise for gap years because gap years are so expensive. And there's not much scholarship money there, but someone has to pay for it. So let's find a way to do it. I've got another project I'm working on, not quite ready for prime time yet, but hopefully in the next 2-3 weeks, month, it'll be ready. And that's where I'll lean on my Innovate people saying, hey, look, I've got this cool idea. Who's first to be a beta tester? Let me run it on your business. Let's see what we can do to help you. And things like that. We've had other experiences like that. Some other people previous years have said, hey, look, I've got this new idea. What do you think? Bounce around the community and people say, yeah, let's try it out. Let's see what it is. Like I'm trying to think who was last year. I don't remember, but yeah, there'll be a couple things.
Whoever it wasn't everybody that they were forgettable. It's that there's a lot of memorable people. So
There's a lot of memorable, but there's also a lot of things in our lives. Like if I look at all the DMs and messages and emails, like everything crowds your brain. So remembering what happened last year, I was like, wait a second, what was that again? What's technology?
But what's nice is it's a community of people that are really ride or die. Like whatever you put into this, you get back tenfold, right? So if Matthew has a new piece of software or a new idea or something he wants to try out, he can message the WhatsApp community. He can write things into the Luma event or whatever it is. And it's not just like one person is going to come out for you. Like you could have a dozen people hitting you up to try whatever it is that you're doing. And then you have like built-in awesome friends networks anywhere you're going. Like I was just in Columbus, Ohio last week. And I was hanging out with Sam Kozin, who everybody remembers from the first 2 years. Right. So it's great. It's really nice when people show up for each other. And I feel like you don't get that out of a lot of events because they just don't want to try, I guess. I don't know.
I think it's once people get in their car after the event, that's it.
Well, and I think also you go to an event and there's this, I'm going to be, we're just going to exaggerate this. We're just going to take it to your local BNI group, like just the small networking event. You go to the event and there's this expectation of sales. I spent this marketing money. I took this time. I'm expecting a sell. And so it's basically a whole bunch of people sitting in their trucks. In my mind, it's a bunch of food trucks. Like everybody's got their own little van with their little logo on the side of it. And they're like, no, we're here for community. Do you want a taco? And like, we're all just hawking tacos at each other. And then we wonder like, okay, well, that event wasn't very successful for me, being defined as I didn't sell a lot of tacos. And I didn't really make any good friends because they were all trying to sell, quesadillas or hoagies or whatever it is. And it's just kind of a silly interaction a lot of times when you go to the events. We're all just it's like we all captured you, took you to our website, and then we don't understand why we didn't build friends.
We are totally here for each other. Now give me money. And it's
like, right. Drew, there's a networking event in Orlando that's like that. For whatever reason, the people that run it seem to get the same grouping of people. It's accountants, real estate agents, lawyers, and something else. But that's like 80% of the people there. I went twice. I'm like, this is just not networking. I've got a dozen accountants trying to pitch me on their accounting services. I just need one. I don't need a dozen. Same with realtors.
I don't know about you guys, but I don't think everybody has to pitch that hard because we put the onus on us as the event. I don't understand it, right? So pick any product or service in the world. I go to Starbucks, I pay money, I get coffee. I don't have to work hard to go brew my own coffee because I'm paying them for the coffee, right? So if I go to an event and I pay to meet people, why do I have to try really hard to meet people? Sounds kind of like a Yogi Berra-ism, but I just don't understand it. I don't understand why it has to be like that. And I think a lot of it comes from arcane systems that predate the internet. And we have better choices. Pandemic was yesterday, and we can do better. So we're doing better. That's it. I'd mic drop, but it's just sitting on my desk.
Well, I think also a lot of the books that are around networking, if you looked at anything on LinkedIn or you looked at anything on Facebook or you read some of the great books, and there's some good books out there, Influence, and then Captivate is a really great one. But they talk about the soft skills. They're all mirrors. They're all focused at me. Like, I'm going to read this book so that I can be a better influencer, so that I can be more persuasive, so I'll be more likable. But the operative word there is me, right? Like, so I can be. And certainly you should go out there and you need to learn those skills. That's on you. That's like just the ante to the table of being a human in business, right? But I think that we've lost, because there's nobody marketing this, I think that we've lost the idea of being a great host. And It used to be that you had people to your house all the time. Not even in like the 50s. Like, I'm talking about in the 2000s. I'm talking about 2010, 2015, before COVID. It was super normal to have people in your house all the time, especially if you're into business. You were either at the golf course or you were at a party and your spouse was part of the social networking dynamic. And being a great host was something that you appreciated about the folks that you did business with. And I think that we've forgotten that because of COVID, which is absurd that we're still talking about COVID. But I think COVID really stripped the idea of hosting from us. And we went to DoorDash and we went to, I'll meet you at the bar, but you're not coming to my house. And so we've forgotten how to create an environment for people. We're really great at creating an environment for sales and for funnels and for taking from people, but we are not great at creating environments to help people land and help people connect.
So if you don't have a lens through giving, what do you expect? You're just telling everybody treat you like a vicious animal, and I guess the world is just scarcity and dog eat dog world. And I guess if that's what you want, there's plenty of that out there, but we try to hold ourselves up to a little bit higher consciousness. And very much so, we believe in doing some of that work because, yeah, you can practice your pitch and influence and be really great in all of these technical proficiencies. But if you're really that great, why do you have to do everything in the room? Why isn't the room doing the work for you so you can do the higher level stuff instead of the brainstem stuff that everybody can do? I don't know. This isn't the Brian Laments hour, so y'all know this.
So Matthew, this is one of the things that you do well and that I appreciate about you is that you listen well. And you've connected me to several highly skilled people in your network. The most recent one was an excellent sales guy. And so like, as we're talking, you're like, what are you looking for, Drew? Who can I help? And you immediately switch over. Kind of open the hood there for me. Talk to me when you talk to people, what goes through your brain? Do you have an algorithm? Do you just do it by intuition? How do you think about connecting people?
It's a great question. I like to call it a radar, where literally I'm online all the time looking at people's websites and companies' websites and seeing what do they do, what's interesting. I hit the career page, I hit the about people page, who works there. And then I start thinking, well, who's on my radar that would be a good fit for that role or meet that person or whatever. Sometimes it works. Sometimes I forget people on the radar because they lose touch or whatever. They're not posting as much or in front of me as much. So that's kind of how I work. I know that, Drew, you were working on some stuff and you're looking for salespeople. So I connected with you with someone that I know who is a sales guy. I mean, literally, he sells iced Eskimos. He worked for a SaaS company a couple of years ago. He was so successful, he put the competitor almost out of business because he lowered their client base and was able to do a merger with his client company that I was working with and the competitor, making the largest SaaS company of that type out there. Now he's doing other stuff, but that's the type of connection. It's like, oh wait, he would be good for you because you need someone to do all this. Not necessarily selling, but like describing, this is what we're doing. This is our purpose. This is why we exist. Are you interested in hearing more? And I don't see it selling. It's more like the right introductions, the right connection to people.
I think Matthew is exceptionally surgical when it comes to that because you're also very process and system oriented. And you appreciate being much more laser accurate on introductions than let me just kind of peacock around and let me show you how many people I can name drop that don't even know who I am or whatever kind of stuff that goes on for this kind of bland networking out there in the world. So
yeah.
That about you.
Right. And that's Innovate. I mean, that's what you're trying to do with Innovate, where you've got these surgical things of why must XYZ person meet the other person? And there's a reason behind that why. And sometimes it works and sometimes it's like, it wasn't so perfect. Let's try again.
Yeah. And it's okay if it fails. Right? How do we know? We can't read everybody's mind. Or sometimes, and this is a lot of it, sometimes people don't really have everything figured out. So we think and try and pray real hard that we're going to do this exact thing. And if you got what you wanted, you would kind of be miserable, right? So sometimes we kind of need our smart friends to come in and it's like, hey, idiot, super not that, tap, tap, please don't do that thing, right? Sorry if that was loud. Yeah.
It was pretty solid.
It's pretty solid. It's like, hello, McFly. Sometimes we need that in life. Mm-hmm.
So Matthew, we were a couple months out of Innovate so far. What are you looking for to close out the year? Like, what things did you catch from Innovate? What projects are you working on? I think last time Brian and I talked about the stuff that we had been doing, but I'm interested to know, like, based on the relations that you've made at Innovate, what does the end of your year look like? What are you looking forward to between now and December?
So between now and December, I think the one big thing I'm working on is a piece of software to review companies' reviews, basically. And the theory that I have is that they actually call the company this, control what you can control. If you own a business, there's only so many things you can control, and you can control where your company's located. Sometimes, if you buy a franchise, you can't control the color of the paint on the wall, but you can control the quality of the paint. You can touch up spots that are not so good. If you own a building, you can't control the elevator, but you can probably control getting maintenance in there more frequently to fix that it's squeaking or doors isn't closed. Or if you own a building or a facility and maybe you can't control certain things about it, but you probably can control when your maintenance team comes and does cleanings. Hey, look, there's a spot in the bathroom where there's mold growing because it's never cleaned. Like, come once a month and just bleach the thing and be done with it and make it clean. So it's the dumb things like that that people will put into the reviews that they'll probably have second thoughts about coming back again. And I know from the way that my family books, my wife's the director of tourism in the family. So all bookings go through her. And I see just watching her go through the motions. She'll search for a hotel. She'll look at the pictures. She'll look at the reviews. She'll browse through and see what do people hate about it? What are the problems? She'll look at the amenities, the photos, and decide, like, well, do I really want to go there? And she'll look at everyone. Oh, this one looks nice. The pictures are nicer. The fewer bad reviews. Yeah, we're going to go there. And it's like dumb things like that that'll actually move the needle for companies.
Yeah, no, this is true. I actually, I was coaching a startup company, and their thing, this is about 7 years ago. Their thing was everybody would log in every day, and then like if their kid was sick, they would like put in their kid's temperature and like if their kid was sick. And I was like, this is a dumb product. I would never use this. And he goes, but would your wife check it every day to see if there was sickness happening in your neighborhood? And I was like, oh, yes. I was the wrong. But it's all about reviews. It's all about like the social fabric. You're right.
Yeah, but going back to the question of would you use it? It's a smart product, but it's a dumb product because it's too finely focused. It should be more of like geographic, like zip code based, like searching for flu. What is flu symptoms? Fever, or can I give Tylenol, ibuprofen, the same dose? Dumb things like that. I was like, oh wow, this is spiking. Yeah, something's going on.
That's awesome. Do you think that the group could offer a lot of feedback, data testing, could probably get it out into markets, I would assume?
Yeah, I mean, beta test once I've got it to where I think, oh yeah, this is good. I encountered some errors last week where I was running something and like, as you mentioned earlier before the show, AI is going to change and it just wasn't working. I was running something on my computer and it was just spinning. Like, why is it not working? I would check the logs, no logs created. Like, well, probably just hosed. So back to the drawing board, recreate the pipes, probably use a public pipe to do an API crawl and then get it working.
Makes sense to me.
Yeah.
I think everything we're talking about with Innovate and really what you're talking about with a review optimizer or
basically
control that the company could do in it, there's just so much untapped potential in things like that are almost a counterbalance against AI that delivers all of these promises and we don't always get them realized. Whereas you could just do in a very small incremental change, if people understood as a small business, for instance, how much they could improve their business just by getting their reviews under control. I mean, this is the lifeblood of industry these days. Everything flows through that. Of course, there's fraud and mania and insanity in reviews, just like anything else. But how do we know anything about a business without really seeing? And you could see what's real and not very quickly. So that's awesome, man. I'm really excited about that. What else we got, gentlemen?
So well, you more with airplanes?
Say again, Matthew?
Any more with airplanes? Helicopters?
Actually, I've picked up a client that does the opposite of airplanes. They
Submarine?
work with incendiaries, so the things that airplanes drop. And that's been an interesting one. And I have another company that really wants to get into drone work. And so he and I are kicking around what we should do there. We live in this really interesting inflection point in warfare. I think AI in business, I use it a lot. It definitely is a force multiplier. But when it comes to warfare, warfare only needs, if you don't have to be as precise in warfare for AI to be super, super effective. Like if I can get something roughly on target, 3 miles away, which is something I could never do with a rifle. All of a sudden it like really, and it only has to work once or really good once or twice. So you watch what's happening in Ukraine, and it is matriculating out to a whole bunch of other places, the effects of drone warfare on the battle space. And so now what used to take a nation state, you can now do like basically in your garage, or just like on your laptop. And then you can even code it with AI at your workstation. Anyway, we just live in this really interesting inflection point in warfare.
This isn't a how-to, by the way, for everyone who's listening.
I know.
Right. And then the question becomes, how do you counter that, right? Because whenever the offensive tool moves and the defensive tool moves. And so AI in this context of like, let's say accounting, you have to do a whole lot of things and every single one of them has to be correct. And it's just like this trudge of minutia, which AI does help with. But if AI is wrong, now we have a really big problem. Whereas in the warfare space, I really just need you to do like 2 things that I currently can't do for myself. And then AI enables that and drones enable that. And it's just an exciting space and it's an intense space, that's for sure.
So talking about drones, what about consumer level flying cars? I posted about this on LinkedIn a couple of days ago where I found a company in Miami and the head guy is on the path to getting FAA certification. And that day I went onto Facebook and I suddenly got prospected by other ads for other companies selling drone cars. And their pitch was, well, we're not 150,000, we're just 99,000 and we're already FAA certified or something. And my next thought was, well, if these people in Atlanta drive anything like they currently drive and they're flying drones, we're all in trouble. Like this morning, I was driving and there was this guy that zoomed up, probably doing 50 or 60 in a 35. I indicated I need to turn. I slowed down and they decided that I was not going fast enough. And it was a 1-lane road either direction and they zoomed around me.
Bro, we do not need 5-dimensional traffic like the Fifth.
No.
Well, then again, this is Atlanta, so I'm not surprised. I'm actually disappointed he only did it on 4 wheels and not 2, and he didn't have an afterburner. But
well, the individual, I think they call it mobility market, which is the electric vehicles or the things. This is actually why I left Bell Helicopter. I was working there, and this is 2015 timeframe. And I wrote a pretty big paper and I was like, guys, we're Bell Helicopter. We are the best, or at least one of the 3 best in the world. But obviously when you work there, you're the best. We're the best in the world at rotor systems. We should make we can make this really happen fast because we know all the problems that are surrounding that. The biggest problem is not, can you make the aircraft fly? It's what do you do during bird strike? Because if you have just a boulder, it doesn't matter what the configuration is. If you have a magic boulder that's flying and this boulder weighs about 2,000 pounds, when it stops flying, it hits something at 60 miles an hour, right? That's a big problem. That's a catapult. You're just launching catapults everywhere. And so a lot of engineering is not the question, can we make it work? It's, can we make sure it never fails? And that is a massively different question. Make sure it never fails is a massively different question than make it work. This is AI code. I can make something, but how often does it fail? How easy is it to hack? Okay, so you have a couple of problems. One is the navigation system, and then one is the propulsion system. Now, on a helicopter, the only way you can get the power to weight ratio is you have to have a turbine engine. And this is before Tesla's really, really compact, we call them pancake motors. The only way you can get enough power to the rotor system is a turbine engine. And those are $1 million a piece. The smallest one you can buy is $1 million. And it's spinning at 40,000 RPM. And then it goes into a transmission that turns that from 40,000 RPM down to 400 RPM. So there's a whole bunch of gears that are spinning super fast. So now they have to be super precise. So just your gearbox and your turbine engine become like the limiting thing. Then Tesla comes out and makes these really cool flat pancake motors. And now you can get the torque that you need and the power that you need in a much smaller package. So it's exciting to see these guys do it, but 100% people should not fly themselves. It should be all autonomous. They should like pick up, fall into a pattern, just like you see like on Star Wars or Star Trek, wherever they have flying cars, how they have these like pre-done road patterns and stuff, but you can't have people are not responsible enough to manage that pattern by themselves. That needs to be automated 100%.
So where do you see the inflection with the current situation we're at? Because right now we've got a small minority of people with electric cars and an even smaller minority of those people with AI-enabled cars where they're on a good percentage of the time. And you've got these crazy cities like Atlanta, LA, probably Miami, probably New York, I don't know where else, where people drive all crazy. And I'm waiting to see like, when will the whole thing change where insurance comes and say, you know what? Your gasoline car is too dangerous because we don't trust you as a human. We need to switch you to AI-based electronic and increase the safety quotient, and we'll give you cheaper insurance.
So I think they're trying to pass a bill right now that puts a kill switch in cars, just regular cars. And it has a series of sensors, and it looks at you and says, is this person impaired? Should they be driving right now? And I think that raises the larger question is not the technical solution. The larger question is the liberty and freedom of humanity. I actually work with some nonprofits, and if you are, let's say you're an immigrant to the country, just to make sure that we can throw some spicy words in here, having access to reliable transportation to your job is critically important. Like we'll soften it a little bit. My daughter's 19. She's in college. We got her a car this year. This will be, she's going to be a sophomore. We got her a car this year. She doesn't need to drive everywhere. She doesn't have a day job. She's going to work like the desk at one of the buildings in the university. But occasionally she needs a car to go to the grocery, do a couple of things. Having reliable transportation that lets you be autonomous, like not autonomy in the AI sense, but autonomy in the I have personal ability to freely move as I want, is a critical human right. If you don't have that, you're basically in jail. And do we want to pass that over to the government or any other body, hint flock safety cameras, that restricts our freedoms? It's a really, really important question. And the
Join
debate
us
really
past 30-minute mark for us to go full Black Mirror mode.
No, but I mean, all these things are important.
We're going to hit.
Think about the ads coming on this one. Jeez.
I think local AI. So like buy yourself a little Mac Mini.
Yeah.
I think local AI, so that you have the power of AI, but the autonomy of the free individual, I think is the place we should go. But I know a lot of people, I don't think a lot of people would use that responsibly, could use it. And then if they could use it, would use it responsibly. So I don't know. I think I've talked enough. I'm going to pass this back over to you, Brian.
I mean, what you said sounds like many years ago when I was working for, like your daughter, working for the library and the computer lab, and people would show up and say, I want to go online. And we're like, okay, well, just sit down at the computer. But I want to go online. Like, but they're right there. But I want to go online. Okay, what do you want to do? I don't know. I just want to go online. I'm told I need to go online. AI is the same thing. It still is. Where people are like, I want AI. Like, what are you going to do with it? Like, they have no clue.
I had a buddy that worked at Best Buy. This is, in the 90s. And people would come in and they're like, I want this computer. And they would hold the monitor. And he was like, that's just the monitor, sir. They're like, well, I don't want to pay for that. I just want the computer. And so what we do when we, when we make the Disney ride of life, you go to Disney and the rides are seamless magic, right? But behind the scenes, there's all these gears working. And we are slowly moving to a spot in society where we know less about how the gears work and we just expect this super smooth ride. But to get a smooth ride, you have to have more and more advanced gears in the back. Yeah, I think that we are dangerously close to this spot where people are not intelligent enough to use the technology. And so now we're just going to cede control over to the large corporations or to the government. And that is so I think the challenge of autonomous vehicles is not, can we do it? It is, can we do it such that it doesn't fail with a populace who is really not ready for the technology?
So you're describing the movie Idiocracy, I believe. You guys both seen that movie?
Not yet.
So my kids all wear Crocs, like the entire high school wears Crocs. But Crocs are in Idiocracy because they were like, we got to find the stupidest shoes you can possibly find. And that's how they became famous. And now my kids...
Crocs were almost on the brink of complete disaster, and they figured out to just lean into comfort and utility, and they owned it. And now they make more money than they ever did. But to just completely ruin the movie Idiocracy for you guys, because it's important, It's basically like all the smart people stop having kids and all the dumb people have endless kids, and the society declines so much that they forget how to grow crops, and like some Gatorade type company takes over everything. So they're literally watering crops and like salting it and whatever. So the guy from the future comes and he's like, guys, you're supposed to use water. And they're like, from the toilet? What are you talking about? And like he saves the day because of that. And I've completely.
He's like, why are you watering the crops with Gatorade? They're like, because it's the thirst quencher.
It has electrolytes. What do you mean?
Electrolytes.
So
why does it have electrolytes?
Know what an electrolyte is?
Quencher.
Right. So it's not that we have to know how the sausage is made or how the technology stack works, but sometimes it's okay to know some of these things. Now, as a recovering technologist, I don't like to talk about technology all day. I like the interlock between how things work and what makes things tick, and also the human element of it. So we always have great technology under the hood. It's, are we actually using it responsibly? And the answer is usually no. And we've spent way too much time onto Black Mirror-esque and War Machine stuff with that. So let's try to go a little more hopeful, shall we? So you're excited about some awesome stuff. What about just like in terms of, and hopefully you're coming in October.
Gonna try. Yes.
Yep.
Some family stuff happening that same week.
Yeah.
So
this isn't like,
right.
Hey, Matt, look at the XYZ mark in the podcast. You said you're nothing like that. But just in terms of, and we haven't made a whole bunch of announcements yet, but is there anything in particular that you're excited about, not just at the end of the year, but in terms of the people, the movement, Nashville, any of that? What are you excited about next? Because I feel like we're really starting to find our gear, but just having me say it all day long sounds like propaganda. So let's have Matthew say it. What do you think, man?
Yeah, I think like moving it to where the community is getting bigger, which is nice. It's we're getting more of a critical mass there. I think having it more routinely at different cities, it's good. There seems to be a number of other groups that are doing that, but their organizations grew very big very quickly. And I think having it mindful growth is good. This past year was it was a good size, but it could have been a little bit larger. And I think Nashville, if it's the right curated people and we can have it the right size with the right topics and groups and people there, it'll be good. I like the mix of the roundtable between the different types of speakers and the content, the things that are like the here and now. These are the top topics and things we have to speak about and think about and work through because they're issues that we have to deal with in today's world. These are not like theoretical like research stuff. This is things that everybody is going to have to deal with in their own businesses and lives.
Yeah, we try to be pretty on point and tactical, but there's almost like two tracks. I didn't mean to cut you off, Drew. Just let me finish the thought.
Yeah.
There's almost two tracks for those of you who have been and didn't notice or haven't been yet. One is the tactical, practical technology, how to do a specific thing when it comes to sales, marketing, a particular industry or whatever. But then there's kind of the life upgrade side of things where we really examine forging through impossible situations and life-changing circumstances and all that. So I feel like, although we always have a singular track and focus, which is kind of everything, right? You can really bifurcate it down to those two specific things. But Drew, you were about to say something awesome.
No, I mean, I think you said the human side of what I was going to say, which is we just had this discussion just here about flying cars, and we kind of spun through autonomy and the questions of freedom and the questions of how should we use technology and the position of our society. And I think this is the argument of why you need to come to something like Innovate. I think the zeitgeist is always carried by a group of people that know how the sausage is made, right? The group of people that know how the Disney ride functions and also know why the Disney ride should exist. And I think, for example, just picking on Disney, I think Disney's lost the plot. Like the last couple of movies they've come out with are rehashes. They're kind of flat. My kids are of the age, so we're watching a lot of Avengers, right? So we're going back through the original Avengers, like all those Avengers movies. And they were like complex and interesting and hopeful. And the latest stuff that's coming out is very dark and very kind of, we're trying to make a social point flat, not, it's like an artist that has an axe to grind and forgot to be really good at their craft. So they're just, Disney has gone through this a couple of times. They were this way, I think, in the late 90s. They kind of didn't have anything to really say. So you need this confluence of people that understand the technology, that are moral lights in the world, that we want to be in charge of these complex questions, and then are doing projects that are happening, but they have gaps, and then we can all talk to each other and share, rather than being like, "Hey, what does your company do?" And then it's just a sales fest. Going back to that, the taco trucks are all just sitting there trying to hawk tacos at each other because they're just there for sales. But instead, you have people that understand these questions and have little pieces of the answer, and they can put them together. It's really energizing. It's a little bit exhausting sometimes when people bring up questions like autonomous cars, because to them, they're just asking about, can I get out of traffic? And I'm like, well, yeah, you can. But there's a lot of really interesting, complex political things that come up and moral questions that come up. And being in a community of folks that can instantly jump into that conversation is just invigorating.
Yeah, it's fascinating to talk about the Avengers, because it's almost like in our family, it's everything's NASA, because that's my son is into space and whatever. So his take on this would be Apollo 13 versus something like super CG where there's no humans and no plot line. It's just like, let's blow things up and whatever. And Apollo 13, there was a disaster and we had to think differently. How do we save these people? How do we retrofit something that's existing using what we have, the limited resources, and make it work? And we only have one try. Versus now, it's like unlimited budget, unlimited AI. Let's just CG everything, get people hooked on it, and hopefully they like it.
So I think what you're both saying this whole time is it's easy to blow everything up and everybody's already doing it. Maybe we can spend a little bit of time to put things together. Somebody's gotta.
With less technology, less like
That's right.
Put you immediately from the stage or as soon as you speak.
Yeah. Well, I think that now, to some degree, most events should be sales devices. I get that. Like, you're asking people to leave their day job to come together and to coalesce. So you should be providing some sort of massive value proposition. Otherwise, why am I leaving my day job? I'm not just going to go leave my day job for 3 or 4 days, let my team run on their own, and invest all this time if there's nothing there. But I think that the way that that's being answered most often is folks are like, now come and listen to me. I'm on stage. I'm this brilliant guy. And you need to listen to me and then get into the club. Whereas Innovate proposes, hey, let's get all the right people in the room who have all these different pieces, and let's unlock things for one another, because this is the group of folks that's going to take over the world.
And it's not just the stage, it's those conversations over the, drinking or snacks, whatever, that makes sense.
Actually, yeah, and I know that I've bent each of your ear on this before, but it's like the people that are speaking from the stage are kind of the MacGuffin. Like, they're saying interesting things and they're definitely carrying a line. But it's those, like, we go and listen. Let's say that Matthew, you're up there speaking. Brian and I now have a common thing we just listened to, which was Matthew's keynote, and now Brian and I can have this conversation as we discover how we can unlock things for each other. So to your point, Matthew, it's the conversations that are the real magic. And the keynotes are awesome, but the keynotes are kind of like this thread that keeps everybody talking until the magic starts to spark.
Everybody can talk. Like, you can look, it's a microphone. You never heard of Amazon, whatever. Like, everybody can talk. Not everybody can listen, and not everybody can figure out how to architect the pieces about how all that comes together. So, yeah, I mean, everything doesn't have to be rocket science, right? Sometimes it's just the proper orchestration of the right people with the right circumstances. And that's what we're here to do, baby.
Exactly.
I love it.
Sweet. Well, you've been a great guest. It's
Thank you.
more interesting than me and Drew just talking about whatever we always talk about. So thank you so much, Matthew. Thanks again.
You have someone not happy in the background of you.
Yep. I've got some stuff going on in the background. So there you go. I wonder what the mute button's for. All right, y'all. We'll see y'all next time.
Have fun with that one.